Hey church, welcome to Married at First Sight season 14. Now baby, after the disastrous breakups of season 13, they said let's go to Boston and try again, okay? Now quiet as it's kept, after all the failed marriages of last season, there's nowhere to go but up. Catch. I got my notes, I hope y'all got yours. Let's get on into this one. All right, y'all, so let's jump right on in. So sometimes I find it hard to do reviews of these Married at First Sight episodes, at least the initial beginning ones, because the episodes are so long, like they're literally 2 hours. So sometimes it's hard to condense my thoughts down to that. But I figured for this one, so that we don't take it too far, I created like a little rubric system that I'm going to try to use as my baseline for talking about them. So I have four main areas, and so we're going to talk about them in terms of the overview, which is really just talking about their background. Match analysis, where I decide whether or not it's a good or bad match based on their background. Attraction, which is analyzing their initial attraction at the wedding day. And then outlook, which is whether or not I see a future for them going forward, which is, pretty much a crapshoot. You never know, because sometimes the couples that I think that are going to make the distance are the ones that, have all the problems from the get-go. So we'll see. So let's just go. This is actually a recap of episodes 1 through 2, because I really wanted to do an overview of all the weddings and stuff like that. But it seems like we're going to actually drag into episode 3 too. We're going to drag into episode 3 also talking about the last two marriages in terms of Stephen Noy and Alyssa and Chris. All right, y'all. So let's start with Lindsey and Mark. So Lindsey and Mark, I really, really like them. They're both very, very high energy type people, right? So Mark is more of the quintessential Boston guy, like lots of bravado. He talks very aggressively, but he has like a heart of gold. He loves his family. He takes care of his mom, XYZ. Lindsey is, the spitfire of the group, okay? Very, very big personality as well. You listen, quiet as it's kept, her personality is probably bigger than Mark's if you think about it. But her mind is very quick. Her mouth is probably quicker than her mind. Y'all know those type of people that they sort of talk quicker than their brain can catch up with, right? So I'm not calling that over her. I'm just saying I know of the Lindsey type in terms of that, that whole mindset. But yeah, I like them. I think that they're a very good match personality wise. And I think that they also have that common thread in terms of the mom issues, right? So Mark is taking care of his mother, who seems to be in some sort of care facility, and Lindsey has sort of a estranged relationship with her mother, which we found out she didn't even come to the wedding, so that's a very big estrangement there. So definitely some commonality with those. So we talked about overview and good match. In terms of the attraction, it was weird to me how Lindsey described like her ideal man in terms of qualities more so than looks, right? But some people are like that. To me, I'm more of a visual person, so I need to have like physical attractiveness before anything else comes to, fruition. But there are some people who they go more off of feelings and qualities than anything else, and that's okay too. So good for her. But she did say that she's very attracted to him. She wants to see where it's going to go. He seems attracted to her, but he did say that he's dated the type of like big personality women in the past, and it doesn't seem to have worked out. It's sort of like, I guess, a 50-50 shot in those instances, whether or not you'll burn each other out by the personalities or whether they'll be complementary. But I do like the fact that they both seem very open-minded and willing to figure each other out, which I think is very paramount in these Married at First Sight scenarios, where you're literally going in blind and you're trying to make a situation that you're thrown into work. So my outlook for them is pretty good. I think based on them on paper, as well as their short interactions that we've seen so far, they seem to like each other. There's a spark there, and they seem to come from similar backgrounds. So I do have hope for them going forward, but we shall see. Time is the determining factor of all these situations. All right. Moving forward, y'all, to Jasmina and Mike, who are really my favorite couple. Y'all know that I'm a very aesthetic person, right? And so Jasmina instantly struck me with her Naomi Campbell beauty. I was right with Lindsey, where she was like, Jasmina is stunning. She walks in a room, she commands it, she pulls all of the attention, which is great. sometimes that can be a little bit of a crapshoot, because when you're so beautiful, sometimes you feel that those people, they sort of lack substance sometimes, right? But I do like that she's not just a pretty face. There's a story behind it. There's a deepness behind it. You know, with her talking about her family situation, her mom that didn't really take care of her and her sisters, pretty much abandoned them. Her father, who up and moved to Jamaica and left her with the stepmother that she's come to view as her mother. So there's a lot of different layers to Jasmina behind just the, you know, the facade of what's there of beauty. So I really, really like that. And I think that her parental story really resonates well with Mike in terms of his lack of family in that situation, him being very, very close to his sisters and extended family and whatnot. So I think that they have some definite commonalities there. I do believe that they're a good match on paper, just in terms of their family backgrounds and wanting to create something unified to move forward and to give to their family, you know, potential children in the future, etc. Um, there seems to be a bit of a disconnect in terms of, you know, their sleep habits or just their like lifestyle habits. He seems very, very low key. And listen, this was his word and not mine. He called himself a grandpa, okay? And listen, there's nothing wrong with being a grandpa, but I feel like when you first meet somebody, you need to go the extra mile to try to, you know, figure out if this can be an actual workable relationship for you too. Because sometimes it goes beyond the physical in relationships. Like, just because one person is attractive and the other person is attractive doesn't mean that they're a match together, right? You need to figure out their sleep schedules, you know, their mannerisms, if they have any sort of qualities that irk your nerves. Like, those things are very important. So when he said he's more of like a 8:30, 9 o'clock go to bed person, and she says she'll stay up till 2 a.m., I was like, she's my girl, right? Because she said, I'm in the bed. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not like out on the couch and stuff and whatnot. But she said, I'm in the bed, but I'm watching these Korean dramas, you know, she listening to BTS music, you know, doing her thing. So I really like the layers of her. And I think if nothing else, she'll be able to pull him out of his comfort zone a bit, which I think would be good for him to get some more excitement in his life. So I think that that's really, really good. In terms of their initial attraction at the wedding, I thought it was good. I did feel, though, and drop down in the comments and let me know if you guys agree, that there was more of an attraction from Mike to Jasmina than there was from Jasmina to Mike. Now, this could be simply because she's more reserved and wants to get to know him before she displays her feelings, or maybe she needs attraction to grow. I don't know so far, but you know, when they were embracing, they seemed to be able to be comfortable with each other in that sense. But I did really get the sense that Mike was a bit more attracted to Jasmina than Jasmina was to Mike. But listen, I don't know. Time will tell if that will happen. And in terms of their outlook, based on their initial meeting and their backgrounds, I think that they have potential to see where it may go. I do also like that they're an island couple, if you think about it, right? Because she has a Jamaican background, he has a Haitian background. And when I say island, I mean more Caribbean. Hell, my family is half Guyanese, and we still think of ourselves as part of the Caribbean, even though quiet as it's kept, we're in South America. But listen, that's a story for a whole nother day, child. Now, I do like that because there's some commonalities in terms of culture, in terms of, you know, just the Caribbean nature of it. Like, I'm not going to go into the particulars in terms of Jamaicans versus Haitians and whatnot and stuff like that. But I think that when you're from the Caribbean, you can sort of have a commonality based on shared experiences or shared culture. And even if you didn't grow up there, growing up in a Caribbean type of culture gives you a different perspective than just an American background, right? So good for them. I'm excited to see where they go. Moving forward, y'all, to Katrina and Olajuwon, okay? And listen, try as Katina might, she could not pronounce that man's name. Listen, she got very, very close, okay? And I would just call him O. That would just be me. I just call him O. And listen, he was even saying to his family and friends, they called him O or they called him Tootie, so she'd call him something else. That's one of them African names, Olajuwon. I think I knew a Olajuwon or something in school, and I think we called him O too, but that's a story for another day. Anywho, y'all, they both seem to want commitment. They're tired of dating. They're tired of the apps in terms of their backgrounds. Now, The thing that I find interesting about Olajuwon is that his whole aesthetic screams fuckboy to me. Like it literally, it screams it. It's exuding out of his pores, and just his general aesthetic, right? But what's interesting is that he's a reformed fuckboy, right? Like I did these things in the past. I went by different names. I dated all of these people. I treated people wrong. It was all about me, 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 and now I'm realizing that hell. I'm at this age, I'm by myself, I want more, and I'm trying to reform who I am. So I think there has to be something said for a redemption story. I always root for the underdogs. So good for him. And listen, your past doesn't define you, and don't judge him for his past because he doesn't live there anymore. Now, in terms of Katina, I do like that she has that commonality of a party girl background. Um, and I feel that that gives them a level of commonality in terms of game recognizes game, right? So I don't think any one of them is going to go into these situations with wool over their eyes in terms of not knowing what they're getting into with someone who comes from one of these backgrounds. But I think the fact that they both want something different moving forward speaks testaments to their union and what they hope to get out of it moving forward. Now, one thing that gives me a bit of pause regarding Olajuwon's background and the things that he wants is that he seems to want a very traditional wife, right? He did mention, I believe it was in the first episode, that it was very important that she be a chef or a cook or whatever, or there's always a hot meal waiting for him when he gets up or gets home in XYZ. And I think it's okay to want these things, but they can't be deal breakers, right? Because as we found out at the actual wedding, Katina don't really know herself around a damn kitchen. And listen, that's okay. A lot of modern girls, they, live on Uber and, the damn DoorDash and Uber Eats and all that other stuff. So it's like, these things are nice to want to have, but they can't be your deal breakers. And I hope that he's not more in love with the idea of the traditional wife than he is with what he actually ends up with Katina, right? Because marriage is compromise, is give and take, okay? And I did like that at the actual wedding, he said, we can work on it together or we can do it together, right? So listen, it does speak to the fact that once you meet the right person, maybe the things that you said that you had to have weren't actually that important, and you can move forward with that person and create whatever your destiny is together. So hopeful with that, but I'm also watching it with a little bit of side eye. Now, in terms of their attraction potential, I think that they're attracted to one another. Another thing that gives me a bit of pause surrounding them is that it's okay that Olajuwon was very vocal about how much he liked Katina and how she looked and that she was beautiful and stuff. But listen, was it just me or did it seem to border on a little bit of cringiness, right? It sort of reminded me of that whole thing of people being enamored with celebrities and the reasons why celebrities don't date fans, right? You cannot date someone that's obsessed with you and enamored with you, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're in this situation at married at first sight, you can think I'm beautiful, which is necessary, right? Like you need to be attracted to your partner, or at least you need to have some quality that you're attracted to that you can build attraction off of, right? But we can't go into it with you being so enamored with me that you don't get to know me and you're more in love with my physical and never get to know my actual mental, right? So you could sort of see it in Katina's face where she was taken aback, number one, by his big personality, but number two, in terms of all of the adoration, all of the compliments, all of the, I love the way you look and da 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 da. It seemed very surface, very physical based. And listen, it's their first meeting, so I get it. If you're married at first sight, you can't always say what your reaction to the person is going to be, but I do hope that he gets to know more of her as a person and asks more deeper questions than just, resting on the fact that she's a beautiful girl, right? Because it seems like she has much more to offer than that. So we'll see what happens. And it could just be y'all because he was nervous. There was a lot of word vomit that he was displaying, and word vomit is something that I always say when, someone is nervous and the nervous energy comes out in a talkative nature, right? Like they can't stop talking. So we're just going to chalk it up to him being nervous, but I hope that he's not a fan of Katina, and I hope he actually gets to know, who she is as a person. So, They're a little bit of a wild card for me in terms of their outlook, but I'm hopeful that they will grow in love, okay? And Katina, girl, don't be scared. I'd have been scared too. I'd have been, listen, I am a deer when it comes in relationships, okay? If I see a red flag, baby, I pull up my hooves and I run into the forest, okay? But the married at first sight situation is engineered so you literally can't run. You have to deal with it. So good luck to them, and I'll be watching. Now, Steve and Noi, because, Steve and Noi and Alyssa and Chris didn't get married this episode, I really don't have a whole bunch to say about them, but we'll just talk about, their overview and whether or not they're a good match, and we'll save the attraction and outlook for another time. So in terms of Steve and Noi, for Steve, he's a very free spirit. He's currently an unemployed adventurer, and I don't say that in a negative fashion, right? Because I was in corporate America for 9 years before I broke away and decided that I wanted to do things that authentically made me happy and fed my soul, which is, part of the reason why I created this channel and why I do social media stuff right now. So I fully understand the mindset of, saying goodbye to one life and being a nomad for a while, trying to figure life out, figuring out what feeds you and your soul and your mental and what you want to do going forward, living off the land, not having any responsibilities to anyone. I get that. I think it's wonderful, right? In terms of Noi, I like that she's quiet, but she has that wild side, right? And so I think her tagline was quietly noisy, and her alter ego is Noisy, who, child, she wears wigs, she twerks, she goes to the club, she talks about relationships and stuff like that. So, I think that they would be a good match just based on the fact that her wild side complements his sort of free-spirited, nomadic side, right? The only issue that I see is whether or not this whole nomad free spirit finding yourself thing becomes a problem for her, right? Because when you get married to someone, you want some level of stability. You want to settle down in a place. You want to have a family and build from there. And listen, he says all of these things, and he said this in his confessional that this is what he wants. He wants a wife. He wants the family. He wants the kids. He wants the stability, which I think is great. But sometimes old habits are hard to break. And I do hope that what he's saying is actually what he wants, right? I think Noi is a beautiful girl. I think that I think she'll need to open up a little bit more because I didn't really get a sense of her true personality. She seemed a bit reserved. I actually want to get to know this noisy person because to me, people create alter egos as more of an expression of a self that they keep locked away, right? And so, my goal would kind of be for her to merge who Noi is and who Noisy is and make them into one, combined individual. And that's probably my wish for her. But like I said, y'all, just in terms of their match, I think that they're a relatively a good match on paper. I just need to know more of if Noi can deal with his nomadic, free-spirited lifestyle and if that, vibes with what she sees for herself. Because listen, if they want to be nomads together and go around, baby, live and let have and do it up, But if that conflicts with what she wants, it may create a problem going forward. So we'll see on that one. And listen, on to the last couple, Alyssa and Chris. Baby, I have no hope for this one. I know they haven't gotten married yet, and I know that we have not seen them together, but baby, my Iyanla spirit of discernment is telling me that something in the milk ain't clean with this too, okay? Not him, her. Now, for her, she seems very, very picky, very high maintenance, and listen, she lost me when she brought 10 dresses that she had bought herself to the damn dress shopping experience. Like, let's just talk about the psychology of this, y'all. You're on this show. They bring you to a wedding shop. They're paying for you to go through hundreds of dresses to find the one that you want. And baby, you bring 10 dresses of your own because you're not sure whether or not you'll be able to find one out of the 100, 200, 300 they have down to the store. Like, that's pickiness to another extent. And quiet as it's kept, the undercurrent of that is that this girl is a bit high maintenance, and she also either comes from money or she makes enough to support her habits that she has. So in my mind, when I was first viewing it, I was like, listen, this man that she gets matched with is going to have to either be paid or be able to, you know, run in the same circles that she runs with. Furthermore, in terms of Alyssa, she seems like a little bit of a contradiction or a conundrum to me. And y'all drop down in the comments and let me know if what I'm saying makes any sense, okay? But she seems very prim, proper, high maintenance, Barbie doll-esque, but then there's this other side of her that has, you know, this country, is wearing the cowboy hats and the cowboy boots and wants to live on a farm and ride horses and stuff like that. So I'm just trying to you know, put the two sides together. You know, for me, it's easy when someone has a duality of self like Noi, because she's named the two sides. And yeah, I said before that she needs to, you know, merge them together eventually. But honestly, Alyssa seems like a bit of a, they just seem so dissimilar that I can't really see them being together. But maybe that's just me. And maybe you could be a, you know, a high class cowgirl on the farm. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's a thing. Listen, I need to get more educated in that thing. But I just don't know. She just seems very, very particular. Now, in terms of Chris, y'all, he genuinely wants to be married, although he's been like a serial dater. He's dated a lot of people, but he's a monogamous. So it's like, you know, one-on-one. It's not like he, you know, dates multiples and stuff like that. He's kind of boring. And when I say boring, I mean that there just doesn't seem to be a lot of personality there, right? In a nicer way, I could probably call it that he's more simplistic. And in terms of the match and whether or not they make sense on paper, to me, their union only makes sense if he takes the back seat to her active nature, right? To me, Alyssa needs somebody with a big checkbook that, you know, funds her lifestyle, that she, you know, is fine with aesthetically, that meets her, you know, high standards of what she wants in a husband, but someone that will really take the back seat and let her take the active role is what I'm getting, right? And that's why sometimes it's really first impressions are really, really important. And I did note that at the bachelorette party when Lindsey and Alyssa really weren't getting along. And listen, Lindsey has a very big personality. Alyssa is much more, you know, reserved. And I said something back then was like, like I wonder about that, because normally the big personality people can interact with anybody and it's fine. And it just seemed like they didn't really vibe like that. So listen, I don't really know what's going to happen with Alyssa and Chris, but based on the little preview of next week where she says that, you know, something was said in terms of, I guess, Chris said something to her that didn't vibe with her well, and she got up and walked off. I don't really have hope for this couple, but listen, I've been surprised at Married at First Sight before, so we'll see what happens. But anywho, y'all, I think that's all I really wanted to say for these first two episodes of Married at First Sight Boston, y'all. So if you liked what I said, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on all social media at DatDamnDasher. And until next time, y'all, put up a prayer for Alyssa and Chris, because he gonna need it. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.